Hello friends, this is Chris with Peace of Mind, and today I'm going to be doing another little slow stitch project. Excuse me, the hiccups. Slow stitch project, and I wanted to show you how to make these slow stitch tags. Now I've been wanting to make these a long time since I saw them on a couple of people's channels. I believe there was a challenge about a year ago with these tags. I watched it some on Rachael at Roxy Creations. I watched it on her channel. I'm not sure if she was the originator of it or if someone else was, but you could check her videos and see if you see any videos on the slow stitch tags. I just loved them, so I thought, well, I'm going to try some of these myself. So I did. And these are two that are finished. Now, if I wanted to ink around the tags, I could do that either before or after, or not at all. On this one, I think I decided that I just wanted it plain. I may do something to the back yet. It has already been completed and glued down to the tag. Same for this one. This has been completed and glued down to the tag. I'll hold it up a little bit closer so you can see them. Okay, it's got little pieces of fabric and lace, and then over the top of that I did the slow stitching. Okay, and here's the other one a little closer up. This one's done with one of the stitched flowers that's in my Little Bits series. I think it's the first or second in the series, the little gathered flower that I'll show you how to make. Then I found this really cute little button that's shaped like a flower that I sewed on as I was slow stitching. Okay, so I'll set those two aside and we'll make some more. I'm going to show you how to start out. You start out with, of course, your tag, whatever size tag you want. I cut these tags from cardstock. You can buy tags already made up, however you want to do it. And then I start with a scrap of muslin, and you can use any other fabric that you want to use. It does not have to be muslin. It can be any kind of fabric that you want to sew your slow stitch down to. The only thing I might avoid if you're a beginner is to slow stitch onto a heavy fabric. It's a little bit tricky on doing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure how big I want this strip to be, and I'm just going to hold it up to my tag and determine that. I think I'll have it about here. Going to rip that down a bit, and then I'm going to determine. Now, if you're making several of these and your tags are all pretty much the same size, then you can cut your strips all at the same time, so you don't have to keep going back and starting over on each one. Okay, and I think I'll put this one about here. Okay, it's my piece of muslin cut that I'm going to make the tag on. I like to use muslin because it kind of gives me a plainer background, but you don't have to use muslin. You can use even a patterned or a piece of old tapestry or a piece of lace, anything you want, anything that you think you can do your slow stitch on. Okay, now we do not glue the muslin and the whole thing. We glue down after we complete the slow stitching. So we put the tag aside for now, and we take our piece of muslin, and then as you can see on this one, I have some things that I already attached on here with some pins. I started sewing on this one. I sewed some of these tiny little buttons down with the green, and then I ran the green up in a slow stitch or just the regular in and out stitch, straight stitch, even though mine doesn't go straight. But that's kind of the beauty of slow stitches. It does not have to be perfect, and it does not have to be straight. It kind of makes it what looks homemade or handmade. Okay. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab a needle. I'm going to thread it, and mine I already have threaded. I'm going to thread it with the 3 strands of embroidery floss, and then I'm going to do some more slow stitching on this one. I'm going to start down here on this lace. I'm not going to show you the whole entire slow stitching process on this because there are other videos where I show you the different slow stitch and different stitches that you can use. But I'm just going to show you how you would do it. If instead of pinning your pieces down, if your fingers get caught on the pins, which mine do occasionally, a better idea might be to glue the pieces down. Don't use any kind of glue except for a glue stick, because a glue stick is really thin and it won't add any bulk to the fabric underneath. And you don't need to put it on the whole. You don't need to put it on the whole thing. Just on, like on this rabbit, I just might just put it right there, like a dab of glue there on the back, and then press it down. And that will keep it in place the same as a pin would. Same for that part. Until I get these pieces sewn down. Okay, now this is purple glue, but it will dry clear. Okay, on this lace, I have this pinned mainly because it's a little bit thicker, and the glue might not keep it down as well. I'll try gluing that little piece right there. And while you're sewing over, if you come across a place that has glue on the back, like I said, this glue is very, very thin, and the needle will slide through it easily. You might want to make sure your glue is dry before you go through it with your needle, otherwise it could gum up your needle. But you pretty much should be okay on that because you're not doing it on the machine. Definitely do not go over wet glue with a sewing machine. But when you're doing it by hand, then you can wipe off your needle if you find it gets glue on it. Okay, so I'm just going up through the lace with a slow stitch. Excuse me. I can do any kind of stitch on here that I might want to do. The reason I'm doing this slow stitch on here, the running stitch, is because it's a little bit, so, you know, I think I just get to that part that has the glue, and it is a little bit difficult to go through it. So I punch it through. But like I was going to say, since this is a little bit thicker than, like, say, your cotton pieces, it probably makes sense not to do a real super fancy stitch along here. Save that for another part that's probably flatter. Okay, I'm going to go all the way up to the top with this running stitch. And these would make a lovely project to do in front of the TV, as do all your slow stitches, really, since it's hand sewing. But you might want to get like a bunch of them ready, like, you know, however many you think you might need, 4 or 5. Put them in a pile. Get your size ready with your muslin pieces, and then put on your pieces that you're going to put on here. I have a bag full of different pieces that I use on my slow stitch that include some cotton fabrics, some with patterns, some plain. Here's some burlap that I used, some laces, and then I just kind of cut them up and put a little dab of glue or a pin, and then pile them up. Say I had 4 or 5 of them. I could probably do all of them in an evening. Okay, I'm going to switch and go this way. Okay, now if I wasn't sewing over lace, the heavier material, I might do a stem stitch, or I might do some leaves like I did here. Actually, what I did here is I went up with the running stitch, and then when I came back down, I made some leaves on either side of the running stitch, and that's kind of pretty. And if you wanted to, you could then go back and put some little French knots for the flowers. I do have some French knots over here. I have some cross stitches up here. And then the little cat I sewed down with an overcast stitch, or actually this is not called a blanket stitch, applique stitch or overcast stitch. But since, like I said, I have this lace, I'm not going to do any leaves here because it's just kind of a little bit too much bulk in there. So I'll just do the running stitch all the way back down this side. I'm going to take this pin out now. I hope you all are doing well. I'm in Colorado and it's beautiful weather here. We're having the mid to high 70s that we never had in the summer. Even in June we were starting to get 90s. So I'm very happy because I love summer. So it's sticking around for a little while longer. But then it's cool in the mornings, and then in the evenings it cools off, so it feels like fall. Okay, move this pin over just a bit. Or, like I said, I could glue it. Okay, so let's say I have this all full of my slow stitch. I'm going to put this to the side for now because it's not quite finished yet. And I'm going to pick up one that I do have finished. This one, I think I kind of want to maybe put a charm on it, but I'm not sure yet, so I'll probably wait until I'm finished gluing it down. I'm going to get my little piece of wax paper so I don't get glue all over my table. When I turn it over, I notice I have this thread hanging, so I'm going to clip that down a bit. And when I'm going to use fabric tack glue, which is for fabric. And it's a little bit heavier. You could use a heavier tacky glue on here if you wanted to, if you don't have the fabric tack. And that would work since you're just gluing fabric to paper. Fabric tack actually is the best for gluing fabric to fabric. But this isn't too heavy, so you could use the tacky glue or even the art glitter glue. Okay. And this way I also cover over the back where the stitches are so they won't show. Okay. I'm going to take my, going to make sure that I'm kind of lining it up so that has kind of equal distance all the way around, except for, of course, at the top of the tag where I'm going to put something, possibly a ribbon or some kind of a strip. Okay, I did get this fabric recently. I thought it was such a pretty fabric. Isn't that beautiful? I love this color yellow. It's kind of a creamy yellow. Yellow and pink and lavender. Anyway, I bought quite a bit of it, so I'm going to use it for probably some covers as well. Let me see if I can find a charm that I might want to use on here. I'd like to find a little bird if I have one. Or maybe yeah, oh, that's pretty. I've got a dragonfly. That's pretty. Like that. Okay. Now, I could have sewn that down to this before I glued it down, but I didn't. So, what I'm probably going to do is just, if I can get this off, this ring off, or possibly I can put a ribbon through there, a very, very small. Let's shoot for some, maybe some embroidery floss. Excuse me. Okay, here's a piece of lavender floss. Let's see if that would work. I just want to make like a little bow on here. And the object is, since I don't have any ribbon that's very thin, I'm using thread so that I don't, when I have the bow made, I don't want it to cover up the dragonfly, which would happen if I used a bigger, wider ribbon. Okay, let's see what we got here. There. This. And as far as these bows go, you just have to keep tying them and then pulling them through a little bit. Until you get them the size that you want. Okay, so let's see what we have here. I want this bow to be at the top. The dragonfly, and this is a bit fiddly. I think I'm going to cut these down. That one's kind of more later. Sorry, this is taking me so long. Okay, at any rate, you get the idea. And then I am going to use the tacky glue to glue this down. I'm going to use just a tiny bit to glue it down to the lace, so we get that bow in the proper spot. And then I need to turn this over and make sure that it's, since it has the right side and the wrong side. Some charms don't. what I'm going to do. I'm going to just put that down on there. Okay, then I'm going to also put another little dab of glue where that dragonfly is going to sit. I've got my wet wipe, so I'm going to wipe away the excess while I'm still holding this down because it's not dried down there yet. Try to get this piece of thread out of there. There we go. Okay. Like that. Oops. I don't know if you can see that or not. There we go. Tiny little dragonfly with a tiny little lavender embroidery floss bow. Now I'm going to clip down the bow just a little bit. That was small, but I do like the way it turned out. Okay, now for the top. Let's go with the lavender again. This is seam binding. I buy my seam binding. Whoops. I usually only buy neutral colors. It's Hug Snug, and I buy it by the 100-yard package. I buy it online. I have noticed that it's available in smaller amounts on Etsy. So you might check that out too if you just need a little bit. Okay, so my tag's going to have a ribbon. There we go. I can have it any size I want. I don't like really long tails, but there we go. And this one has a bow up at the top instead of the ribbon. You could do either one, or you can even put a piece of lace at the top. Anything you want. Okay, for those of you who don't want to slow stitch, you can still make these fabric tags. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do one just using glue. I think I am going to use my art glitter glue. I've got a round circle that I cut out from a piece of lace yardage rather than lace width. And I'm going to glue that down to the center. Not all around, just on the part where it's in the middle part. And it is going to hang over the side, so just make sure it's... Let's make sure it's equidistant. And then we've got this is another one of the flowers that we made. I made using the... what I did was I cut a long strip of fabric, and then I kind of ruffled it on one side, or not ruffled it, scalloped it with the scissors on one side, and then down the other side I gathered it up into a circle. And the instructions for this are on my Little Bits video, I think my first or second one. Okay, so I want to glue that down to the middle. This time I'm going to use my fabric tack. So I'm just going to put that... Oops, sorry. I think I was off camera. Okay, and I'm going to center it. These are fun if you want a fabric tag, but you just don't want to do the slow stitch on it. It's actually quite a bit faster if you don't have the slow stitch. And then I found a button in my stash of old buttons that I have that came off of something, and it already has the thread on it, which is cool because I didn't have to sew it down, but it looks like I did. So I'm going to put a little dab of glue in the middle there and put that button on there. Oops, I'm getting too much on there. Now pick up, if you have any excess glue around there, pick it up before it dries, because otherwise it will leave, you'll be able to see it on there, or at least feel it on there. It'll kind of be crunchy. Okay, I'm going to try to put this in the center. Go. And when I squish it down a little bit, leaks out on the sides. I'm going to try to pick that up with my wet wipe. There we go. I can add some other things to it. Let's see, what else could I add to it? Maybe some lace. Let me see. Get my lace box out. Ooh, this is pretty, but I think it's too long. Well, I don't know. That is kind of pretty. I think I'll use it. Okay, so let me cut this straighter. Should be using my fabric scissors. This is almost the last of this stuff, so that's okay. Cut it there so I know where it is, and I'll turn it around. Go straight down. Okay, like that. And you can put it at the top too if you like that. But I think that maybe is a bit much, so I won't. And let's see, I'm going to use my fabric tack because this lace is heavy. Okay. You notice I'm putting my cap back on. Trying to each time, otherwise that fabric tack kind of bubbles up out of the top, and then you kind of waste it because it forms a glob there on top. Okay, now instead of using my fingers, I'm going to use this wet wipe to kind of pick up that excess glue that's coming out through the holes in the lace. That just helps make it look flatter and lay flatter, and hopefully not show those little pieces of glue as much. Okay, now I think I'm going to have a ribbon on here. Let's see if I know I have this fabric somewhere, so I'm going to try to find it. Maybe not. I could go with a gold ribbon or let's see, for the sake of the video, I think I'll just use, how about if I do a bow out of this? I'll make it a double bow though, to make it pretty thick. So I'll use 2 strands of my, this is probably too long, but I'm using 2 strands of the seam binding to make a thicker bow. Okay. And I'm opening up the, separating the two strands. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut on this one side up. I'm going to make this kind of a crinkly bow, and by that I mean I'm gonna crinkle it up, try to get it to be kind of messy looking. I'm gonna form it into a ball, and then I'm gonna kind of heat it put it in the heat of my hands. Let it go like that. Kind of shake it out a little. And I have my crinkly bow. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so I'm gonna put it up here. With some fabric tack. Stitch it down. I'm going to turn it over to make sure that glue's not coming through to that other side. There we go. Pretty? It's a pretty one. Reminds me kind of the fall colors with the fabric in the middle. Okay, so that's the one without the slope stitching. And here's our other ones. Those in the picture. So, thanks for joining me today. I wish you peace of mind. Please join me again for my next video. Bye now.